Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional, a personal branding expert, and an author from the US, Giuliana Tranquilini Hadade. Giuliana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and look forward to our conversation.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Juliana is a best-selling author. As I mentioned, she's a personal branding expert and she's an advisor and a mentor. She's a professor and a columnist, and she's an author of two books. Uh, First one is on personal branding, and the second one is Rise and Raise Others, Real Life Stories from Inspiring Women, which I understand is in Portuguese. And when she translates it into English, we'll have another conversation. So, Juliana, my first question, tell me about your own journey and what inspired you to pursue a career in marketing, branding, and communication.
Yeah. So from a very young age, I think I was fascinated by the power of communication, how certain message could resonate deeply with people, influence and decision,
Mm,
and build emotional connections. Pretty young, I
mm,
think. When
mm.
I was 14, maybe, I
Wow.
found myself captized by TV commercial, not just for creativity, but how they shape consumer
Mm,
behavior. So I always, when I watch the TV commercial, I always wanted to understand why someone choose this product over another one
mm,
and how brands could connect with people beyond just selling. And I didn't know it at the time, obviously, I was 14, but this curiosity about human behavior, storytelling, influence, I think define a little bit my career. And as I developed deeper into marketing, branding, and communication, I realized that branding wasn't just about selling products. I
correct.
think when I realized that branding not just about selling products or service, it was about shaping perceptions,
Mm,
building trust, crafting narrative that position an individual and business or corporate brand
mm,
as a leader or a leader in a service product or professional in their field. So, and I had the opportunity to build my career in iconic companies in Brazil,
yeah.
and I think I have the opportunity to learn a lot of this brand and the people that I met
Mm,
in this company. So Havaianas, the most iconic, beloved brand in Brazil,
mm,
Natura group belongs Avon. So many build many brands that the companies that the core are brands.
mm,
So I have this opportunity, and I think after years work with global brands, that's my experience in Brazil, communication and brand, always in communication and brand. I think I realized that the same principles that apply to corporate branding I can apply to individuals. But of course, we as a human, we are not product or service, of course.
mm.
But leaders, entrepreneurs, and professional, they have their unique stories. They have their values. They have their differentiators. So then I shift my career after 25 years as an executive. I decided to build my own company,
Mm.
and I think I put together my passion, human behavior, people, and brand
Oh,
communication.
wonderful.
So
Right.
this is become Betterfly Brand Makers, my company, and I developed my methodology for
Mm,
personal brands.
mm.
So
Amazing.
yes, I
Amazing.
working with personal brands, not more with corporate brands. But
Absolutely.
the connections is pretty similar.
Mm. So let's talk about personal brands. And you've written a book on personal branding. Why
Mhm.
is personal branding so important, Juliana? And this has really acquired a lot of significance in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes. Yes. I think because the digital social media comes and change a lot the way that we communicate.
Mm,
And I think today the personal brand is very important to build a strong brand. When you build a strong brand, you have to begin with
mm,
self-awareness. So it's very important at these days in the AI technology, we stop and look more about who you are.
mm,
So when I talking with my clients and I decide when my clients decide to understand more about the journey of personal brand, I always say that is very, very important to ask yourself the first
mm,
step. What do you truly care about? What the values guide your decisions?
mm.
What impact do you want to have in your industry or the people that you serve for? So I think the importance of personal brand nowadays is much more than in the past. Of course, the environment change, the digital, the social media change, and it's important to be yourself, to be authentic, to understand your voice and organize your narrative and expose to the market. So in this way, it's easy for your stakeholders understand what you offer for them, what the problem you solve
Yeah.
for them. Because when I talking about personal brand, I always say it's not about you.
Mm,
It's about how you solve the problem of your
correct.
audience, of your stakeholders.
Mm. Very well said. Thank you. And given all the work that you are doing with so many people on their personal brand, what are some of the common mistakes you have seen people make when it comes to their personal brand?
That is interesting, this question. I think one of the biggest mistakes is not having a clear focus. Many professionals feels like they need to appear to everyone, so they end up with an undefined and in a generic brand. What I want to say is trying to be everything to everyone.
Hmm.
It's very important. I think is the biggest mistakes. The truth is, if you try to be everything, you end up being nothing. That's the
Correct.
truth. That's the truth. So a strong personal brand, it's about positioning. So you
Mm,
have to know your audience, be intentional about how you communicate. So the first mistake is to be everything. Uh, and you are everything, you are nothing.
mhm.
And I think the other mistake that is very common that I saw when my clients come to me, it's treating personal branding as a self-promotion instead value creation. That's what you talked before. So a lot of
Mm,
people think personal brand is just about talking about themselves, because I'm do this, do that. So it's not about that. It's not
mm,
posting achievements, titles. Uh, it's not about you. It's
mm.
about the value you bring to others. I
Very
think
well
this
said.
is very important to always remember. But I don't like to self promote my. But it's not about you. When you understand that personal brand is about the value you brings to other, this shift change in your mind, I think you'll be more comfortable and more confident to help others.
Wow, great response. Then
Yeah.
a few minutes back, you talked about how important it was to present your own authentic self.
Hmm.
Many people struggle to find their own authentic voice. What advice would you give them?
Ah, you say about you asking about the
Their own,
find your voice and to be authentic,
correct,
correct?
correct.
Yeah, this is very interesting, and this is such common challenge because many people feel like they need to sound a certain way to be taken seriously or fit in a industry standard
Mhm.
be uh, uh, to be connect with
Yeah.
the industry. But the truth is, your authentic voice is what sets you apart the others.
Correct.
And this is interesting. And I think the key is to be yourself,
Mm.
Autos, because when you understand that if you are as yourself, also being intentional about how you adapt to different audience, that is important because some people think, but I have to have strategy or intentional my communication. Yes, you have to adapt, but the interesting thing is the strong personal brand begins with self-awareness, what was I talking about.
Yeah.
And the most important thing, what I say about authentic voice is understand that you have to create communications and adjust your tone of voice and language and style depend your audience. It's very important to know your audience,
Mm.
but without losing your essence.
Mm.
That's the most important thing to say about find your voice. Because, for example, if you're talking in a boardroom, for example, your tone may be more strategic or more polished because you're a boardroom. When you are a keynote, you have to adapt to understand your audience. When
Mm.
you are a social media, when you are with a colleagues, a friends, when you are in your family, you are the same person,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Your essence, your identity, it's there, but you have to adapt. So I think this is the magic. Understand your identity, your essence, and adjust your tone of voice or style
Mm.
according your audience. I
Very
think
well
this is
said.
the
Very
most
well said.
important thing.
Well said. My next question is that, personal branding has also, as you said a few minutes back, become much more important now because of the digital media.
Mm,
I want to ask you, how has digital media and AI transformed personal branding strategies?
yeah. So we are in the area where AI, in my opinion, I'm not an AI
Yeah.
expert, but I use a lot AI.
Yeah.
So I believe that AI isn't more only an assistant. When you use AI, you can amplify your voice. uh, AI works like a curator, and in some cases, a creator of narrative, a
Mm.
content, for
Mm.
example.
Mm.
I help my clients to organize their prompts with strategy to help to starting to craft their narrative.
Mm.
But what I believe is the most successful, what I say for my clients, the most successful personal brands today leverage AI without losing authenticity. That's why you're talking and trusting and a human connection, because AI, they don't have emotion connections. So I think this is the key of how you use AI in a digital media and reshape your personal brand strategy.
Mm.
But we always, what I believe is when you use AI to create more content, for example,
Mm.
uh, what I believe is the authenticity is the differentiator, because many people's using AI, for example, to crafting your content.
Mm.
And if you create an extractor and put emotions, opinions in your own voice and like an editor,
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's not just only assistance. It helps to bring more efficiency, more producer, more,
Yeah,
but it's important to
correct.
use your opinion, your emotion, the real stories, the real connection, the human connection. So I
Absolutely.
think this is
Absolutely.
difference
Well said.
between,
Well said.
yeah,
But tell me
using.
also, that with so many different social media platforms, how does one select which is the right one to build my personal brand?
That is interesting. I always say you have to use the social media
Hmm.
that your client or your stakeholder
Hmm.
are. If your stakeholder are in the LinkedIn, so let's go to the LinkedIn and use the LinkedIn as your most important platform. Or if your audience are in TikTok or on Twitter, or for example in Brazil, Instagram for a physician. I have many clients as a physician. They use Instagram. So
Hmm.
let's organize their narrative, and they don't use LinkedIn.
Hmm.
It's rarely they to use LinkedIn for this client. But I have C-level as a client. I have a C-level executives. So LinkedIn, and it's most important. And in Brazil, for example, Twitter, we
Hmm.
don't use Twitter a lot in Brazil as we use here in the US.
Hmm.
So depends on your audience, or you
Right.
have to communicate for your audience.
Hmm.
So you choose the social media that they are.
Very interesting. And what, in your view, is the role of storytelling when we talk of building a strong personal brand?
Yeah. I think storytelling is the backbone of personal branding,
Hmm.
because transform it what's transforms a list of accomplished in a memorable narrative. It's the way that we can connect our content
Yeah.
with our audience. So, in my experience, the most powerful personal brands aren't built on just expertise or credential. Of
Hmm.
course, it is important, but they are built on the stories that make these people feel, what make connect, what make remember. So I would say that storytelling is the backbone of personal brands.
Hmm.
So it's a way that you can make this connection and remember in your audience.
Hmm.
Uh, I think it's very important.
Very interesting.
When you put a story in your narrative, I think it's good.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
Juliana, you've also written a book on personal branding.
yeah.
But tell us about your book and show us the book if you have it with you.
Of course, of course. So this one we launched is your personal brand
Hmm.
in English. We launched it in 2023 in Brazil and 24 in the US. In Brazil, we was a bestseller in 2 months, I think. This book we decided to launch to spread our methodology, the methodology that I say we because I have a partner business in Brazil. So I decided to, and we write together the book, because the book, the intention was spread for more professional how build your personal brand.
Right.
And there is a guide, because there is our methodology.
Hmm.
So the method, the fly method, that the fly that we develop, it's inside the book with many reflections, cases of many clients that we can expose. So it's very interesting. And last year, I launched here in the Silicon Valley where I lived, and it was a very good experience as well
Wonderful.
to spread in English. So it's a very, yeah,
Wonderful.
interesting.
Wonderful. So I have time for two more questions for you.
Sure.
You are also an MBA professor and a mentor. What are
Mhm.
some personal branding lessons you teach to your
Mm,
students?
yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons I share is if you don't define your
mm,
personal brand, the
mm,
market will do it for you.
mm,
And maybe not like you don't like the results always. So
mm,
I think when you own your narrative, it's very important. You have in your hands your narrative, it's very, very important.
mm,
So, and I learned this the hard way early in my career. When I
mhm,
understand how is important to be more strategic, to be more intentional in my communication,
mm,
I think I changed the game in my career. So
mm,
this is very important. And another one is about visibility. I think a lot of professionals, especially women, excited to put themselves out
mm,
there because they don't want to be seen or they don't like to expose. But again, it's not about you, it's about
mm,
how you serve. So it's very important to visibility and to uh, expose for your audience what you do better. So
mm.
I think it's very important. But the
Fascinating.
most important is it's about put the narrative in your hands and
Right.
define by yourself.
Hmm. Well said. And my last question for you, can you share a personal branding success story that where you have helped somebody? And of course, I don't want any names.
Yeah, in our book we have many cases
Yeah.
as a client because you
Mhm.
have to put, to authorize with this client. So I can share one of them.
Mhm.
I have a very it's a very nice case. It's a woman. She's very interesting executive, and I think when she comes to Butterfly, the name of my company, and she decides to do the journey of personal brand, her reputation was strong.
Hmm.
So she was a very strong executive, but she lacked a clear and intentional position that would elevate his influence at a national and international levels. And it's
Hmm.
very common with other clients as well. She's in this case, she's known about their talents, their superpower. She has a strong reputation, but she needs to be more influenced at a international or C level in a high level. So and we understand exactly in this case her expertise, what define her apart others, what I means, what differentiation her of others, and use some elements become a foundation of her personal brand.
Hmm.
It's like in our methodology, we say it's your personal DNA, the DNA of your brand. So we identify some elements
Mhm.
of the foundation of the DNA of her brand and organize and positioning her in a space that he can to be more authentic and to be more influenced in these stakeholders. So we shape their narrative, we reorganize the communication in LinkedIn, we build more visibility as a thought leader that is very important to her. And we started to develop a strong, in her case, LinkedIn is the most important platform. So we develop a strong LinkedIn strategy. We positioning her as a speaker as well because she's very specific industry. She works in a healthy care industry. So we put her as a speaker and to be consistent. I think what the most interesting that we can or we organize the
Mhm.
narrative, But the tip and the advice that I send her at the end of our journey, because the methodology is a journey is to be consistent.
Mm,
So the first step, we clarify who you are, what her superpower, her strength, and organize the narrative, and to be consistent and connection with
yeah.
their her audience. So after she finished our journey, after 2 months, I think, he received an invitation to change the company. It's not her intention, but
Mm,
to be a CEO in another company, and she's starting to be a speaker. So she's in
mm,
the book,
mm,
so it's a true
yeah.
case, and it's a very interesting to see how she grew when she decides to organize the narrative, when she decides to expose the more visible her brand with strategy and intentionality. It connects.
Very
It's
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Julian, on that note, and this amazing story that you've just told us, thank you so much for speaking to us about your journey. We covered a lot
Hmm.
of very interesting points in personal branding. You told us about some of the mistakes we people make. You told us how we need to find authenticity in our voice. You spoke to us about how important it is to be able to decide which platform to select
Oh,
based on where your clients are, where your business is. You also told us about the role of storytelling, about some lessons that you gave to your own students, and you also told us about your book. Thank you for
yeah.
speaking to me, and all the very best to you.
It's a pleasure, of course. Thank you so much to invite me, and it's a very, very pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.